Hello, and welcome to the live series Straight Off the Bat. Join us on Thursdays as we speak to individuals from multiple industries who will help you understand financial literacy and education. If you join us from LinkedIn, don't forget to like and follow our page to continue seeing content that helps you manage your money. Today, we're talking about discussing fathers, finances, and football. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today is actually a very interesting day. You guys know why. Legally, we not supposed to say this thing, but there's this football thing happening today. It's going to be a big deal. So this is a special edition. And today we're joined by Kenwyne Jones. He's a retired Trinidadian striker who captured the Trinidad and Tobago national team and enjoyed a distinguished career in the Premier League, MLS, and international football. He's remembered for his aerial dominance, physical presence, and leadership, helping the Soca Warriors reach their first ever FIFA World Cup in 2006. Oh my gosh, I feel so old. That was so long ago. Anyway, let's welcome our guest, Kenwyne. Kenwyne, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for the so grandeur welcome. And yes, it was 20 years ago. Well, just up on
That's
20 years.
just,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I still remember getting that day off to go watch it. And it just feels like yesterday. I really do feel like my grandmother saying that. How was that? Like how I mean, I'm gonna just go off script for a minute. How was that feeling to, get to World Cup? Do you
Um,
remember what that feeling was like?
well, I think at the point I took it for granted. And when I say I took it for granted, it's because I was 21 years old. And yes, caught up in the euphoria of the moment. Obviously qualifying for the World Cup, first time in history, yada yada yada. You know how that goes. I think only now, 20 years later, I'm really getting to soak in what it meant for the country and for myself and for my family. So now I'm appreciating it even more and more. And now that you have a World Cup that is, close to our region, it's soaking in even more.
Yes, and I mean, speaking of the region, today's first match with Mexico, it's going to be quite a a spectacle. So this particular show, we speak about finances, and I think it's a great way for us to segue into football, goals, success, lifestyle, especially with those prices of those FIFA tickets. Whew.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your first relationship with money, could you give us some insight as to what that looked like?
Um, you know, um, my first relationship with money, I think, came from my grandparents, really, as far as I can remember. Being from, the southern region of Trinidad and Tobago, and deep south that is, from a very young age, you were sent to the shops to buy stuff. And your grandparents would send you to the shop with the money. You have to make sure and purchase what they asked you to purchase, and also bring back the correct change. And when you do get home and brought that change back, if you did wanted, if you wanted money to buy something yourself, a snack or whatever it is, you would then have to ask. So understanding, that commerce, that exchange that happens in the shop, how much your grandparents are giving you for what they want to get, and then coming back with the change. Even at that time, it started introducing you to what things cost. And I think that's from, and this is back in the day, obviously. From the age of like 5, I was making my way to the shops, walking, when it was safe, walking to and from. So that is my earliest recollection of dealing with money.
So this conversation is around fathers and finances, and it is Father's Day coming up. So we want to find out from you, how many children do you have?
Well, I have 7 kids in total. As said before, I sired 6, but through my wife, we have 7 kids together. So it has been a really learning and guiding experience throughout my entire life so far, when it comes to finances and children. and being a father and being responsible for your household and sort of the pathway for your kids.
And it's so interesting. We want to shout out to Wayne joining us from Facebook. Thank you very much. I'm here to
Mr.
learn.
Mr. Mandeville. I think he's more experienced than I am. He's not here to learn.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, all of us are here to learn something. So we want to find out, when you became a father while playing at the highest level, um, did it change the way that you view money and how your relationship with money?
Well, I had my first kid, pretty early, just out of school. Um, and even from then, I think even my upbringing as well, you learned how to manage money. I didn't come from a rich household, so I was always in the business of understanding how money works, the things that you prioritize, your needs, your wants, and then the other miscellaneous. So when I had my first kid, I would say 95% of what I earned used to go towards the kid at the time, whether it's taking care of the necessities, the doctor visits, so it's I had a pretty good understanding at the beginning point of what I needed to do, but as things progress, you started to expand and started to go into the things like savings and investments and that type of stuff. So it was a learning experience for me at the very beginning.
Okay. So we are talking about, fatherhood and finances, and we must talk about the cultural differences because you've had the opportunity to live abroad. And I imagine when you moved, there were some culture shocks within managing your money. What did that look like?
Oh well, boy, were there culture shocks. Being from Trinidad and Tobago, we're accustomed to things being ran in a certain way. You obviously across the world you have your things like mortgages, your rent, your water bills. We don't have gas bills because we use gas tanks and that type of stuff. Electricity, um, and all of that. But when I moved to England when I was 18, I would say 18 and a half, going on 19 years old. Um, and I was placed in an apartment on my own. And thankfully, for the way that I grew up, I understood how to, manage my living situation. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was, as a newbie, I went into my new apartment, got everything that I needed. I knew I would have had to pay my gas bills and my water bills and that type of stuff. So getting in tune with that was pretty easy, once you were pointed to the right systems and companies and that. But the thing that surprised me the most was the day that I had to pay for a TV license. Now, the thing is that I plugged in my TV, I got my internet or broadband subscription, and I plugged in my TV thinking, well, I'm at home, this is my comfort, and I'm gonna relax. And about 2 days after I plugged in that TV, I got a notice through my door, saying that I have to pay for this license or else I could be fined by the council if I don't do it. And I was really, really surprised because I've never known in life that you have to pay for a license to watch TV. It was absolutely ridiculous to me. And being back in Trinidad, it still is ridiculous to me. But that was the biggest surprise, I think, in my early days of migrating that, kind of took me some time to get used to.
You're giving me some flashbacks because my first week in England, I was in my 20s and I didn't tap out on YouTube. I didn't know I had to tap out. and I
Oh,
was charged, I think it was 20 quid at the time. And that to me was almost like $1,000 because every single cent counted. And it
it
was
did.
like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, but you learn pretty quickly though. When you have these instances, and I don't think that for any young person, being able to be on their own or moving out on their own and really acting as an adult, being in control of your life basically, actually know how these things work. I think it's for everyone is that learn as you go experience. I mean, along the way you do get, you might run into people and seek advice and that type of stuff, but I want to believe it is the same for everyone when you're pretending to be an adult at that time.
Yes, I feel like sometimes I still am pretending. So when it comes to this football life, people have a grandeur, sense of, okay, you're on TV, so big money.
Mhm.
So do you remember the first major purchase that you made with your football earnings?
Huh. um I do. I do. Everyone thinks it's grandeur, but they, just like anything else in the world, in any sector in society, they are building stages. So when I was able to have enough money, and when I say have enough money, we're talking about being able to qualify for loans of different magnitudes. My first purchase was a house. Obviously I had my son, and it was important for me to go down that line of being responsible and being an adult, but also going through the course because I'm living in a different country. I didn't want to go through the process of being at a rental for the rest of my life, because that is what you're told, that's what you're shown, from young growing up. You go out, you try to purchase a house, and then you go through that stage of having a mortgage and that type of thing. But that was the first purchase that I had.
Wow, sounds very diligent and smart. So clearly, those trips to the shop with your grandmother was very important for you in your financial education. So when we talk about football, especially in the athlete space, there's a finite time in which you can
Mhm,
actually be at the top of your game.
mhm.
So it's quite unpredictable. You never know with injuries and transfers, performance pressures. Like, at what point did you realize, you know what, I need to stack this away for my retirement? Did that even start? Was that something that started at the beginning, or later on you're like, okay, I see a gray hair, this needs to retirement needs to be a conversation I have to have?
Well, if I think for myself, um you know going into to the sport, or to the career, that is, you have a finite time, and then knowing myself personally is not something I would have been willing to drag out forever and ever. I mean, I was involved in sports all my life, and more so at the professional level that I did. I was out there pretty early, from 18 years old, really. So I know, the normal, when you're attached to the sport within your clubs, you sort of get information, you get education, and then you join association. So I joined the PFA as a player, and they continuously feed the education to you about the amount of time that you might have in the career. Um, touch wood, as they say, and the things that you might want to try to look at for not only your security after you retire, but even while you're playing. Because sometimes even the insurance that you might have while playing for a club is not enough to, cover you for a lifetime, like you rightfully said. At the beginning of my career, I could have gotten a career-ending injury, and then where would I have been? So I'm very thankful that I was able to go through the time, but I also took the information on board, and then you go through the fact of trying stuff. You're doing regular savings, and then you get the information that regular savings only gives you a certain percentage, and then you try investments in other things to try and build the money and secure your future. There is no blueprint as to what actually works from what doesn't work. Sometimes you get burned, sometimes you have to learn along the way, but it was all part of the journey.
That's such great advice. So, we're gonna have a conversation around social media and
Wow.
a certain individual known as iShow Speed, as my friend calls it, is house speed because it's so far removed from the young people, and
Yeah.
as a father having to navigate that. But we're gonna talk about that right after the break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to this edition of Shirt of the BATT, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. If you're joining us today from Facebook, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content and help you manage your money. Today, we are joined by the legendary Kenwyne Jones. He's a retired Trinidadian striker who captained the Trinidad and Tobago national team and enjoyed a distinguished career in the Premier League. We want to welcome him back because today is a special day for so many people. Productivity level for the next month and maybe about 8 weeks is not going to be great, but that's okay. We're here to talk about fathers, finances, and football. So just before the break, we were discussing, financial decisions as an individual. So we're going to shift a little bit more to financial decisions as a father. So, needless to say, back in the day and now is two different things. I hate to sound like my parents, but things cost different. But not just that, social media can create pressure to look a certain way and live a certain lifestyle. So, as someone who has fathered 7 children, how is it important for you to navigate that social media space?
Um, Navigating it from a parenting perspective. Obviously, I came out just before the social media boom, I think. And then, all of this started happening, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Snapchats, all of it. I, in my day, I was accustomed to MySpace, and was it High Five at the time? But now it's moved on rapidly. So for me, it's about navigating the things that are safe or presumably safe for your children so that they are not programmed and influenced by the wrong things, and being able also to use it to connect with people still. Of course, in my life now, I'm still connected to everything that is surrounding the clubs that I play for, and also the fans of it, and fans outside of that who would have probably seen me on my international career as well. So it's very tricky. I'm coming from an age where I don't really care. Sorry, I don't mean to say that for the people out there. I'm not so into social media, but I do have it, and being able to navigate it and actually use it for the right purpose. I'm still learning that, so hopefully I'll be able to get better at it, and then be one of the streamers out there, maybe, or maybe not.
uh, when you said high five and I was like thinking about MSN Messenger. So many
Yes, and
things
Messenger,
happen.
yeah, yes, so many things.
Quality. Well, speaking of influencers, which is a viable career that a lot of people, well, a lot of parents, first of all, are trying to learn what it is, and then
Mhm.
secondly, is this something that could be monetized? So most recently, we have to talk about iShow Speed. Visited the Caribbean, had how many millions and millions of views. How did that happen? Because there's currently a reel on your Instagram where you guys had a little, what is it, 433, 233? I don't know.
Well, yeah, that was him and the 433. It was really funny, because I mean, traditional to us, we were playing small goal. So it was really funny when he said that. But the whole organization of his trip, happened through different entities, and they came together and they reached out to people, to try and make the experience, of not only for him but for the stream, to be as best as possible. So I was reached out to, and if I'm being really honest, I didn't care too much because I don't think of ISO Speed being in my generation and category, but I am aware of what he does and what he was doing. So it was a good experience. I took one of my kids, to the event so that he would be able to meet him and to interact with him a little bit, which was really fun. But overall, I think it gave the opportunity to highlight different parts of Trinidad and Tobago and what we do and how we do it to a new generation of people that possibly would have never been able to see it before. I think for people of my generation and the ones before, they would have had to travel and really seek out these adventures and the knowledge. But now you can do it over the internet, and I Show Speed, being one of the main characters in the streaming game at the moment, was able to provide a platform for us to be seen.
And we have to talk about this space because influencers and I know I saw the discourse online. Who's this boy? Where he from? And it's, to me, it's not. It's very telling. People think it's
Mhm.
like, oh, it's a boasting, but it's actually very dangerous if you don't know who he is and your children know who he is, because you
Yes,
have to understand what your children are consuming online. And
exactly.
these individuals are selling stuff. Mr. Beast sells burgers. I had a
Hmm.
friend told me that they're leaving for the States and they asked their little nephew what they want, and he wanted a burger from Mr. Beast, which
Hmm.
is a whole different conversation altogether. So as a father, how do you talk to your children about balancing, the hype culture, because a lot of these individuals are selling stuff, but at the same time, this is a viable future for them to look and say, hey, this is something that I could do as a job. What does that conversation look like for you?
uh Well, I haven't gotten to the point of us having that conversation about it being a job. First of all, I am a very open person. I do not like, wasted education. I like targeted education, because I do believe that, you should do things that align with your passion. I'm a firm believer in doing what you believe, and actually being able to provide the platform for that. Because again, coming from our generation and before, there are a lot of people that have different stories that they became what they became in spite of, and not with the proper support and push from the environment. So I try to give my kids the proper support that they need, to express themselves and to also to be explorers in whatever their passions might eventually turn out to be. Because for a lot of them at this point, it's curiosity. um but the thing about that streaming space and the different characters that are, attached to these streaming spaces, you, as a parent, you have to be careful, because for us, we've grown up with different, teachings and morals and behavioral patterns, and some of the things they might be doing there is not, conducive to proper behavior, in whether at home or in their schools or public spaces. So you have to, actually be invested in knowing about what they're into and what they're watching, so you can kind of control, support, and manage, the consumption and also the interpretation of that content. Because I mean, just a couple of days ago, I was having a conversation with my daughter. She went to her friend's mom's sort of renewal of her vows, and kids around their age, she's 10, and kids around their age, they were watching some particular content on YouTube, and it was a bit distasteful. So we started having a conversation about the person, how they acted, um, why it was good, why it wasn't good, the sensitivity around the subject. Because my final thing was, the more that you ingest certain types of content, especially when you're young, it sort of programs your character and the way you behave, the way you perceive things. And it was really important for me to have that conversation with her, and to be able to get a gauge on where her mindset is, where her motivation is, and how she perceives behaviors and things in society. So it was a really good conversation, and I'm happy that we were able to have it, and I have a good gauge as where she's at, and what she's about at this present time.
Well, first of all, congratulations for creating a relationship with your children that they're able to have a conversation with you, because a lot of times, a lot of us grew up with fear when it comes to our fathers. So it is important to have, that trust from your child to make sure that those
Well,
conversations are happening.
well, let me say, I learned that from my mom. I didn't have that with my father. He was pretty much old school. I think you sort of pass on what you've learned, um, in a lot of respects, and sometimes you modify it. So, but that in particular is something that I got from my mom, because that is something that she used to do. We were exposed, relatively exposed to all situations when we were growing up. Um, that you would expose children through, and even from a just the relationship standpoint, being able to build that relationship is something that when I look back at it, is quite easy. It just starts with conversation all the time, and for me, it used to be conversation from school. From the moment that you know you you get home from school, the first question is, how was school today? What did you do? Let me see your bag. Or you have homework. Okay, let's do the homework together. And then the different things that continue to as situations and your social circle opens up within your life. It is pretty easy to still have conversations. Now, mind you, you're not going to tell your mother everything when you get to certain ages, but most of it, you're able to have those conversations. And I think that is important, because then you would be able to figure out, and to have a gauge that when your child may be struggling, and they need support mentally, physically, emotionally, is something that is really important. So I have to give kudos to my mom for that. That is one of the things that she passed down to me, and I appreciate that very much, because now I'm getting to use it with my children.
All right. Shout out to Mama Jones. So we're going to go on a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to have this conversation around values and lessons that all of us need to learn, but specifically as it relates to fatherhood and children and growing up and understanding early about money. We'll be right back.
Tired of feeling lost when it comes to your money? Want to make your money work more for you? Then tune in to Straight Off the Bat, brought to you by the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. on TV6, right after the news. We'll give you practical tools and strategies to help you manage your money wisely, from budgeting basics, debt management, to wealth creation. We'll cover it all. No jargon, just straight talk. Join our host, Pauline Joseph, as she speaks to experts across the industry to empower you to take control of your money. Straight Off the Bat, Mondays at 8:30 p.m. on TV6. Brought to you by the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago.
and welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that will help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're discussing fathers, finances, and football. And today we're joined by Kenwyne Jones. He's a retired Trinidadian striker who captained the Trinidad and Tobago national team and enjoyed a distinguished career in the Premier League, MLS, and international football. And well, you know what today is, guys. Let's welcome back Kenwyne, because we want to get to the, end of the show, because we have two very important games today. What are today's games? Mexico and who, Kenwyne? Do you know?
In South Africa.
Right. It's so funny because
Wow.
there's so much news around.
Wow. But to be honest with you, I don't blame you. I think when you look at everything that is happening, this World Cup is one of the World Cups I think that does not have the hype and the interest really as it used to do, in the past. And I mean, there are a lot of things that are contributing to that, but we're not going to get into that. But I can understand.
No, not today.
Yeah, not today. But
Not
I can
today.
understand where you are with your interest.
Yes, and it's interesting because people thought they could have bought the tickets and resell it, but the reselling market is tanked. So
Yes.
a lot of people have lost money. But let's not get into that because we want to talk about finances, right?
Yes,
Okay, so let's have this conversation around fatherhood and finances. Just before the break, we were discussing about building that relationship with your kids, which, by the way, for those who may have missed it, how many children do you have?
7.
Okay. And what are their ages?
25, 23, 20s, 2 20s, 14 or 15, and a 10.
Wow, I can't imagine. Like, I have 5 other siblings and I don't remember their age. I remember their birthdays for the most part, but I'm like, this is too much to, like, it's just too much, you know?
Yeah, well, I
So
mean,
you literally have a small side for football, just saying
yeah,
out there, right?
that's
You have
what they say.
a
But
team.
I'm pretty much equal in boys and girls. But
Oh, wow. Okay.
this one of them where the funny thing is, I never dreamed of having kids. It was not something on my radar. But when I from the time I had my first, my mindset changed into, I want to be able to have my kids early enough. I didn't want to wait till I was late 30s and maybe 40s. For the people that do that, that's fine. That's okay. I'm not taking anything away from you, but I got them out early. For my first marriage and also for my second, and that was it.
Okay. So I have some questions, but I just realized Wayne is sliding into our comment section. So we want to answer his questions.
Wayne is-
Wayne is joining us from Facebook.
Mr. Mandeville always asking questions.
Well, I mean, that's the best way to learn. So Wayne wants to know, what are your baselines for investing from a perspective of sustainable revenues, and what scope and areas motivate you in this space?
The baselines. Firstly, you have to, seek education as much as you possibly can. And also you have to be very, discerning. And that comes along with, again, like I said, maybe sometimes winning and sometimes losing, and sometimes you lose more than you win. For the average person, I don't think the average person knows about investments. I mean, you might hear someone talking about rentals, and someone talking about having maybe a grocery or that type of stuff. But the world has opened up so much that you can be making income from, let's say, maybe renting out tools. If you bought tools to companies, there are so many different avenues for you to be able to make investments, and then earn revenue from it. It's not pinned down to what were the standard things long ago, and then you have all of these wealth managers and all of that that now want to manage your money and invest it for you and all that type of stuff. So it's really diverse in where you can invest and how you can invest. Seeking information, talking to people, not being afraid to ask questions, not being afraid first of all to say that you don't know about something, because that's the beginning to you getting education. um, and also it's just about trying to continue to build, to give a platform to the people coming behind you. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have that growing up, really. When I say at a large scale, obviously your parents would have bought their home, and god forbid they leave the earth, and then those things pass down. But then on top of that, from what I was able to do, you're able to leave a platform for your kids to try to go on to build on it. We all know that you can't guarantee anything, but that is the way that I see it continuing to build, so that your family can continue to build thereupon after you.
So let's have this conversation because you spoke about education. And I think in this context with sports, there is a level of discipline that most people don't understand unless you're an athlete. People think that you just want to wake up at 4 a.m. every day, but in reality, it creates a sense of discipline. So
Mhm.
do you think that that same discipline applies with you and how you manage money?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I think you can apply some sort of discipline to it, but like I said, it depends on your mindset and how you see things. Some people might be very safe, and well, yeah, I'm gonna put this money away here to just sit, and I'll have that when I retire. And some people take risks. But what is most important is the education of the things that you're doing. For a long time, in some of the stuff you might tell yourself that and that is how you burn sometimes. That's how you learn sometimes. But being able to apply the discipline in going to that, and sticking to your guns in investing, also in saving and being disciplined around all your priorities of life, is things that you could learn from. Because when I get up and I go to work, that's me going to work. My wife don't go with me, my kids don't go with me. But they have the things that they have to do as well, so you practice discipline all throughout your life. And more so, it can be applied to business, but we all know for a lot of people it does not.
Yeah, that's so important. So, we learned earlier that you decided to have kids, at a younger age, as well as you purchased a house, I think, at a pretty young age, right? Am I
Hmm.
correct in saying that? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So, you got these opportunities, you went away, but I want to look at how, becoming a father changed the way how you think about money and the future.
um I don't think becoming a father actually changed the way that I viewed money in the future. I think becoming a father added more to the understanding that you have to think about the future. Maybe it's not necessarily to leave a fortune for your kids when you die, but it's also being able to make enough money and to have enough resources to be able to give them that platform to succeed, that launching pad. It adds up in different ways for people. So like for me, it gave me a bigger drive. I would say an even deeper sense of responsibility, because I'm not only caring for myself, I'm caring for my children as well. So it more than anything else, it kind of dialed in my focus, more than it was before. Because I mean, overall, the main focus for me was to be able to explore my talent, because I was involved in a lot of sports from young, and it's only like when I got to maybe 14, that I actually had to make a choice in terms of which sport I would give all of my energies to, because you could be the master of none when you're doing everything. So I made that choice, and then from there things moved pretty quickly for me. So maybe from 14 to 17, I made all the national youth teams, and then I made my debut for the senior men's national team in 2003 when I was 17. And things basically just skyrocketed from there. Went on to being a professional in Trinidad for 1 year, and then I left at 18 and a half years old, and went on to have the career that I did. So the focus was, my main goal was to explore my talent and my dream um, through sport. I just want to say I had the opportunity for education to go to university, many universities, and I turned them down just because I wanted to explore the belief and the dream that I had.
Well, congratulations on taking that leap, because I know that was not easy. We want to head over to the comment section because Marcus Balancing has a very interesting question that has layers. So let's start.
Oh wow.
Do you see trying to achieve success as a professional footballer coming out of Trinidad still viable for youths today? What route would you take, North America or Europe? And is there any sustainable financial advisory available for a student athlete who grows into a professional player? Wow, Marcus, you must be a dad. That seems like a very specific question. So, Kenwyne,
Well,
what's your advice?
it is. It is. Well, firstly, again, like I said, me personally, as an individual, I try to get my children to express themselves and to go forward into whatever they want to do. Um, I have some guidelines for it. Whatever you set out to do, you have to see it through. See it till its end. It doesn't mean that end is going to mean that you're going to be a professional at the end, but to exhaust the opportunity to see if you're going to get there. Um, Coming out of Trinidad and Tobago, for us, the way how things have changed in the world through immigration status and all of that, and work permit status, it is very difficult for us to go through, especially the UK route. The European route can be viable, seeing that they are not as stringent as the UK. Um, and also North America, traditionally for us, we've done in the North America thing. We from since I was in school, playing the sport and various sports, that is. We have the scouts coming from the universities abroad and looking for talent and trying to give kids opportunities to also have an education as well. And I am going to highlight the fact that education is important. And if you do have the opportunity to have that education and play the sport or whichever sport you're playing, that is fine. You have to explore that, because at that point you're no longer growing a child. They start developing their sort of blueprint for their pathway and success to life. And you just have to be there to guide. And the thing is, sustainable financial advisory available for student athlete. Um, it's difficult. It's difficult because you can have all the education at your fingertips, but that individual are going to, explore the things that they think is going to be beneficial for them. So whatever tools that you would have given them from a young age, leading up to that point, coming out of university and then going into the professional player space, they might be making more money than they would have had at university. But the support in the education of life, not university education, which is totally different. The education of life and how things actually work in the real world, I think is really important for children. Too many parents, I think, try and hide the reality because you don't want the kids to feel that burden, or to know what you're going through, to be able to provide certain things for them. But I think it's important, really and truthfully, to have that conversation. Because sorry, I was having that conversation with my son a couple of days ago as well. Him going to the point where he's in high school, and now going to be looking at the subjects that he's going to be doing for CSEC. And he had an interaction in class with the teacher where they're now starting to do things in principles of accounts, and talking about compound interest. And that led us into a whole conversation about the real cost of things, and like houses, cars, and what are assets and liabilities, and that type of stuff. So I'm looking forward to having those conversations and to explore, because then that is where you get to expose them to the actual running of life. And hopefully, that sets them up to be very, balanced and knowledgeable in the future.
Thanks for that, Kenwyne. I could also add, as a former hockey player and a current triathlete, I do have friends who send their kids to the US for hockey scholarships. I don't know if it's
Mhm.
that strong now at Hofstra, as well as someone I know sent their kid 4 years ago for a triathlon sponsorship, which
Mhm.
apparently is a growing trend
It is.
within the
It is.
US.
And water
So
polo as well.
there we go. There we
Yeah.
go. And that comes with a scholarship. Obviously, there will be expenses from the parents, but it's definitely less than if you pay fully for yourself. So
Yes.
I think there are options out there, Marcus. So we're going to go on a quick break, but when we come back, fathers usually have the take care of everybody mantle. So we want to find out how Kenwyne can balance, family, friends, and protecting your own financial future. So we'll be right back. And welcome back to Straight Off the Bat, a show that helps you understand financial literacy and education. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you're doing so from LinkedIn, don't forget to subscribe to our page to continue seeing content that'll help you manage your money. I'm your host, Pauline Joseph, and today we're discussing fathers, finances, and football. And we are a few hours away from the very first game for World Cup. So we're joined by Kenwyne Jones. I mean, you know who he is. Let's bring him in. So, he's a Trinidadian striker, or was retired, but also a father. So we want to have this conversation because I think it's extremely important when it comes to fathers and how we see them in the household, how we see them in Hollywood, on television.
Oh,
There's
wow.
this idea that fathers take care of everything. So give us some insight on how do you balance helping your family and friends while making sure you're protecting your financial future.
For me, again, it depends on personality. Uh, and you're correct. Yes, fathers help everybody. In the family, you're everything. You're the doctor, you're the lawyer, you're the driver, you're everything. But again, it's how you look forward to that responsibility, knowing that it is a responsibility. To be able to not only secure your status of your family at the current space, but also for the future, the things that you impart, the things that you try to give to them on a daily basis. Again, being a sportsman in the space that I am, and having friends, you would have gone through trying to help a lot of people. But again, also that in itself, you get the education from that, and what it means and what it takes away from not only your present position, but also from your future. But those are things like any human being you learn along the way. But for me right now, it's all about giving my family the security and the benefit of me being here and being able to give them the platforms for them to go on and succeed.
So, I remember we had a we were supposed to schedule to do a session, and you said, I can't because I have to go pick up my kids, which, kudos to you. Big round of applause. So I want to talk about, what does financial success look like for you? Because for a lot of people, that's a form of success. So when it comes to all the hard work that you've done from since you very specifically said 18 and a half years old,
Mhm.
what does your financial success look like in terms of freedom, peace of mind, ownership? What does that look like for you as Kenwyne, as well as a father?
Well, is exactly in the order that you said it: freedom, peace of mind, or peace of mind first for me, freedom and ownership. From a very early age. Again, I had a different mindset. I always loved to do the opposite of what everybody else is doing. And for some people, it means that it's not the natural or systemic way of things and thought processes. But from very early, I was able to purchase my properties without having to go to the bank for a mortgage. Some financial gurus might tell you that's a bad thing, but for me, I always had the belief that you never know what can happen to you in life. All of these financial institutions that we put things into, and mind you, I have a mixture of it, where I was able to do things off the cuff, and then also the structured way or the systematic way of doing things. And I've seen a lot of 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 varying results. There are results where the success that you think you're going to be guaranteed, it went out the window. We've had economic situations, we've had recessions, we've had COVID, the pandemic, and a lot of people even now who are in that systematic way of running things are struggling to be able to maintain ownership, or the idea of ownership. And thankfully for me, I don't have that issue, just because of the open-mindedness and the blended approach that I had from very early on. So success for me, my kids being able to come to a house that when I die, they would have no liabilities except maybe their utilities and other things, or other properties, is that is success for me. But because I grew up, my parents had a mortgage. I know people who are, because I tend to speak to people who are older than me all the time. And they are now paying off their mortgage at 55 and 60. And I just thank God I was in a situation where I was blessed enough, and also had the discipline to be able to go for situations like that, and believed in what I was doing. Because today for me it is successful, where I don't have to look at having to, and no disrespect to anyone, having to listen for that call or look at that bank statement and see that mortgage um being taken out every month. I'm quite happy and have a peace of mind and freedom where that is concerned.
Wow. Yeah, that is definitely something to aspire to. So, and when it comes to, folks watching this, if you could give one piece of advice to young fathers trying to balance, their job, ambitions, responsibilities, and finances, what advice would you give them?
Well, I really don't want to give advice to young fathers, to be honest, because again, my situation was different, and I grew up differently. Um, because you have to understand that having, kids that early can derail some people. It doesn't necessarily have to galvanize you and make you become more disciplined, um, and more focused to what you're doing. Some people fall under the pressure, because we know all situations are not, 1 + 1 = 2. Um, but in all honesty, you have to be very focused. You have to be very truthful to what is now your responsibility, and do that with the most honesty and passion, and and love that you possibly can, because I think that that opens you up to being able to seek out smart decisions. um because it it gives you the understanding that it depends on more, or more is dependent on you. When you're looking after yourself only, you can wake up how you feel like, go to bed when you feel like, make a purchase when you feel like, and not understand how it impacts, or where is going to hurt. But when you have children, you operate differently. I mean, you're still gonna live and try stuff, because obviously you're trying to achieve success somehow, but you just have a different outlook on the responsibility, and it helps you to make guided discovery.
All right, so we have one last question. Earlier on, we were discussing you having a conversation with your 10-year-old about some content that she saw
Mhm.
on YouTube. So I want you to give just one quick, I don't know if to call it advice, but insight into how to start a conversation about money with your children, because a lot of parents, and I've experienced it, where I had questions and I was shut down. And parents feel intimidated, especially when it comes to struggling and not being able to navigate themselves. So just give us one insight as to how do you think one should start that conversation with your children.
Well, in my instance, it is pretty easy. um because the way I was grown, like I said, my grandmother started the train with giving you the money to go to the shop, and you have that type of exchange happening there. But even growing up with my parents, I would see the struggle of not having food as lavishly as you want, or presents as lavishly as you want, understanding that your dad works, mom is a homemaker. The things that you might want to do, want to have, you're not able to, and you have to prioritize when it comes to clothes and your books and toys and that type of stuff. So from pretty early, like I said, we don't expose our children um, enough, and I don't mean just in a raw sense, but obviously making them understand what and how things are made possible or not made possible, what you are looking at, the things that you have to do, the things that you have to prioritize, the way that you save, the way that you look forward to purchases, the way that you look forward to your responsibilities in terms of your bills for the household, what you do, what you don't do. And then your responsibilities to them, having that exchange and talking about it. And as simple as, like I said, going to the grocery, there are some people that when they're in a comfortable position in life, they would tend to open up the doors and just do anything and give anything when it comes to their family. But I think where kids are concerned, you want to be able to take them to the grocery store, or you want this, you want that, even on the pocket money that you'll be giving them to go to school. Like, and I'll give you one instance. This last couple of weeks, um I've now have my children, paying for their own chargers. Because before, they would have, I am the type of person, I purchase what you need, and I purchase your backup. So I would buy their chargers and have a backup, because I know, the attitude of, oh, they will treat the charger anyhow. They wouldn't put it into charge properly. They would take it out, without care. They would be in all different types of positions with their devices that, would end the charger's life prematurely. And we've got to the point where, I ran a little project where, both of their chargers um, had gotten destroyed, and there was only one charger in the household. So whose phone, whose iPad, they had to be sharing it, and it was an old slow charging stuff. So you couldn't be as callous with how you use the device, and when you get in charge, you have to clock your time for it. And then I just said, you know what? Now it's time for you all to purchase. your own charger, so that you would understand the actual money, the value of money, because the money that you were saving to go buy snacks in the shop or something that you see out, or maybe a coffee at Starbucks or whatever it is, now you can take $40, you can take $50, and I'll take you to the store and you take that money and buy your charger. And it's working really well, because now the amount of care that goes into keeping that charger safe and not using and not even lend it to someone else is amazing, and I'm loving it.
And I can't imagine the importance of those chargers when it comes to access to the things that we want the most, which is our phones.
Yes.
So sounds like a great lesson learned. So on that note, thank you so much, Kenwyne Jones, for joining us today and sharing insight into fathers, finances, and football. Don't forget to sign up to be notified from our next live show via the link in the comments. As always, be sure to follow our pages across social media so you don't miss a single live show. Thanks again for joining us today, and looking forward to seeing you at the next show. Bye.